Well, hey, North Park Community Church. Pastor Luke here with another episode of First Looks, and we are continuing on in our series through the Gospel of Matthew. We're in chapter 15, picking up where we left off in verse 21. I'm going to go through the end of the chapter, which is verse 39. And just by way of reminder, what occurred in the first half of chapter 15 is Jesus is questioned by the Pharisees from Jerusalem who come and interrogate him over his disciples not washing their hands in keeping with the tradition of the elders. And Jesus responds back and he says, look, you subvert the commands of God in the way that you try to keep the traditions of the elders. You are more faithful to the doctrines of man than you are to the doctrines and commands of God. And so, and he proceeds to talk with his disciples about it's not whether you wash your hands that makes you clean or unclean. He says it's what flows from the heart, what comes out of the mouth. That is what makes someone clean or unclean. Not about what goes into the mouth, but what flows from the mouth. For that's what reveals the condition of the heart, and that's the main matter. And so, knowing that he has offended the Pharisees from Jerusalem, says as much in the in the text. His disciples say, "Master, don't you know that you've offended the Pharisees with what you've said?" So, so Jesus proceeds from there to picking up in our text in front of us right now to go away from there, and he withdrew. Now, this is interesting because in Matthew, this is often the language of Jesus's spiritual retreats, so to speak. But what's unique about this is that he withdraws to the district of Tyre and Sidon. Tyre and Sidon right here. I'll show you a map in just a minute. This is northwest. This is the Phoenicians here. Let me show you a little bit of a map. There we go. So this right here, that's the Sea of Galilee. This is where Jesus does a lot of his northern ministry. We see Galilee right there. And if we follow this orange right here, that's going to take us on his little journey up to Tyre and Sidon, okay, northwest area. And this is famous for trade routes. Very pagan, very worldly. And Jesus chooses to withdraw up into this area. Tyre and Sidon will be talked about as those who will incur judgment, but how much greater the judgment for those who rejected the Messiah than it will be on that day for Tyre and Sidon, whom would they have seen the signs that the Jews had seen, they would have repented, that kind of thing. Tyre and Sidon gets lumped up into some of those discourse deals right there. So that's where Jesus is going. He's going up here into this pagan, this is non-Jewish territory. Non-Jewish territory up here, which is really, really, really important for our passage. And that's why I wanted to get a map and to kind of show you how far north and west he was going. So going back to our text, this is Tyre and Sidon. Forgot my H in Phoenicia. Now, to go even further, this Tyre and Sidon, boom, boom, and a Canaanite, boom, woman boom, all the strikes are against this situation. She's not called a Syrophoenician woman. She is in Mark's account, but in Matthew's account, she's designated as a Canaanite woman. And you go ahead and just check this out in the Old Testament. The relationship between Jew and Canaanite, not great. Canaanites are the ones that God said he would drive out from the land so that his people could inhabit it. Now it was kind of requisite of Israel to see to the driving out. The Lord would give them victory, but there was participation from his people required as well. And when they were not faithful to drive out all of the Canaanites, that would come back and cause a lot of problems for Israel regarding their peace and worship for the one true Lord. And then it's just always notable that this is a woman, and in this culture, just women were second-class citizens. And so Jesus is in a pagan land, Gentile land, non-Jewish land. There's a Canaanite, big, loaded terminology there. This is a big racial divide between Canaanite and Jew. And there's a woman, and she comes from the area, and she comes out crying out, "Have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David." Oh, there's a whole heap going on here. She's crying out for mercy. And then look at this designation right here. And then look at this designation right here. For her, a Canaanite woman, to call a Jewish rabbi Lord. Some will say, oh, it's just kind of a nicety, kind of like saying sir or whatever. I think in this, when you take Lord here and you take it with Son of David, I think there's much more being communicated. Son of David indicates familiarity with messianic hopes. Now, we don't know how she has this familiarity. It could be because she would have just had Jewish neighbors, because Tyre and Sidon are just bumped up against Israel. It could have been that just the fame of this healer, this Jewish healer, reached her ears, and she's just, the fame of Jesus spread, that there's this one who is the Son of David, who is able to heal, and we see this here next, my daughter. And so this is a mother's desperation going on here, and she is severely oppressed by a demon, and she's crying out here, "Have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David. My daughter's possessed by severely oppressed by a demon." And if we go back to last week's message, we see Jesus interacting with the Pharisees and then teaching his disciples. But then we come back and we went to the end of 14, where he's healing people left and right, willingly, with generous healing and kindness and patience and mercy. And look at Jesus' response. She's crying out. We've heard of others cry out, "Son of David, heal me." And Jesus does it. And here it says this, "But he did not answer her, not a word." His disciples are fully okay with this. They begged him, saying, "Send her away. Send her away, for she's crying out after us. She's pestering us. This is quite annoying. This isn't a good look for us. Get her away. She is bad for business." And then Jesus speaks, and he talks to her. And he says, "Look, I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." There's a lot going on here, because Jesus has healed Roman centurion in, I think, chapter 8. And he has healed the Gentile demoniac in Decapolis, in the Decapolis area. He has already healed some non-Jews and done some kindness. This is just one more lady with it's just a mom crying out for her daughter. What's going on here? This doesn't seem to be in any way in alignment with everything that we've been seeing and preaching about Jesus. He says, my business is the lost sheep of the house of Israel. I've come to Israel. That's God's covenant people. That's the one that to them the Messiah has been promised. And she came and she knelt before him, and we see some reverence in her posture, but she's gonna press in her words, and she says, "Lord, help me." Cry of a mother. And he answered, it's not right. He goes on to give her a parable. This is a parable here. He says it's not right to take the children's bread and to throw it to the dogs. Okay, so just to maybe tease this out. The children, Israel. And the bread is symbolic of God's goodness, provision, and life. And the dogs, this is not great. Dogs are not beloved. Not a great kind of not an uplifting metaphor. Let's suffice it to say, not a great metaphor for her. He's essentially saying you belong to the dogs, which the Gentiles and pagans were referred to as the dogs for their uncleanness, and so she comes back again and she says, "Yes, Lord, yes." Acknowledgement. This is humble acknowledgement of lowly status. She comes humbly, but she says, yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table. The dogs still get fed. He tells her a parable that's not right to take the children's bread, throw it to the dogs. She says, yes, but crumbs still fall. The dogs still eat. And so allow the little, allow the overflow, allow the mess of your ministry to fall upon me. Maybe that's a good way to put it. Allow the overflow and mess of your ministry to fall on me. And Jesus says to her, "Oh, woman, great." Whoa, there we go. Great. Mega. Only time faith is called great in Matthew. Now with the Roman centurion, it said of him that his faith is what's he say? It's more than any of the sons of Israel. He says something like that. So Jesus, he dignifies the faith of the Roman centurion and this Canaanite woman. The two greatest designations for faith go to Gentiles, which is quite noteworthy. And Jesus says, "Great is your faith. Great is your faith," for recognizing the character, the goodness of the one who has come, and to know that his goodness, yes, it will overflow. And so he says to her, "Be it done for you as you desire. Be it done for you as you desire." And her daughter was healed instantly. So this is just an incredible story in and of itself. I love it, but there's more. Now, Jesus, let's catch this here. This is cool how all of this will thread together. Jesus went on from there and walked beside the Sea of Galilee. Now, we might immediately think that Jesus is back on Jewish turf again, and I'm going to make the case that it's not. Why am I going to make that case? Not with Jews still amongst Gentiles. Because what's going to happen is he sat down, great crowds came, bringing with them the lame, the blind, crippled, the mute, many others. They were put him at his feet. He healed them. Notice this, no pushback, anything. Crowd wondered when they saw the mute speaking, crippled healthy, the lame walking, blind seeing, and then they glorified the God of Israel. So this right here is the repeated ministry of healing from Jesus, but Gentiles are included. The ways that we know that is this right here. And they glorified the God of Israel. Jews, Jesus's Jewish ministry never uses this phrasing. That's one reason. The second reason is that in Mark 7, it says that Jesus went to the Decapolis after. So where Matthew's account says he walked by the Sea of Galilee, Mark specifies and says he went to the Decapolis region. So let me give you another map here. As Jesus would have been coming back around here, as he would have gone through the today the Golan Heights area, crossing through probably Caesarea Philippi. That's up there. We can come up here and you can kind of see that this is him coming around here, and so he would have ended up in this Decapolis region that's on the east side of the Sea of Galilee. This is the Sea of Galilee here. And so this Decapolis area was pagan, Gentile region. And then we have one other indicator that at the very end down here it says he got in the boat and he went to the region of Magadan. And Magadan is over here on the west side. And so if he's getting on a boat, he's probably going to an opposite side. So if he was over in Capernaum or if he was down here, probably wouldn't have gotten in a boat, probably would have walked. So that gives us indication he was on the east side as well. So all that to say, Jesus is still not amongst his Jewish people right now. And he's doing this ministry. And now it says, then Jesus called his disciples to him and said, I have compassion on the crowd. Compassion. See character of Jesus all throughout to Jews in Matthew. Because the crowd has been with me now 3 days. So that's a long time in this area. And they have nothing to eat. And Jesus says, I'm not willing to do something. I am unwilling to send them away hungry, lest they faint on the way. And you see the care of Jesus in this, and I love it. And the disciples said to him, where are we going to get enough bread in such a desolate place to feed such a great crowd? And now at this point we're saying, what? Go back 2 chapters. Feeding 5,000. Duh. Maybe to the disciples, what's going on? Why are they saying there's nothing to feed here? And I think that this is a super critical point here. Because for the disciples, they can grasp now a miracle like this of feeding Israel. They don't have a framework now for doing that kind of miracle of feeding to the Gentiles. And Jesus now says he's going to mirror what we have in chapter 14 with the feeding of the 5,000. How many loaves do you have? 7, a few small fish. So there's a little variation here from the last story because this is a true historical account and they happen to have 7 and a few small fish. This is not just Matthew making up a story that works good. This is true history. And Jesus directs the crowd to sit down on the ground. He takes the loaves and the fish, gives thanks, and he broke them, and he gave them. So that just about mirrors Matthew 14 very closely. The disciples are the ones who give it. And so there's a little bit of a challenge for disciples to serve Gentiles. Now go back to 15, about 1 through 11-ish. That defiles. It breaks Jewish purity code. And that's one of the reasons that the hand washing was such a big deal, because it represented purity code, which represented cleanness, as opposed to the Gentiles that were viewed as unclean. And so Jesus is I mean, this is all tied together. Everything in chapter 15. We're taking it in 2 sermons, but it's all flowing together. And they ate, and they were satisfied. He took up 7 baskets full of broken pieces that were left over. Those who ate were 4,000 men, besides women and children. And then he sends away the crowds, and he gets in the boat and goes back to Magadan. So this is 1,000 less. Some people want to say, well, Israel gets the greater 5,000, Gentiles get the lesser 4,000. I think I don't know that's necessarily the point to be made, because what seems to be the main point of Matthew is that the work of the Messiah came first to Israel, but it's coming to the world in full. And so it seems to be mapping on a just about identical miracle to the Gentiles as was given to the Jews, showing that the crumbs that fall from the master's table up here, the crumbs that fall from the master's table they're enough for the world. There's no shortage. The crumbs will not just get you by. You have more than enough when you eat just the crumbs. And so there's no lack with the kingdom. There's no lack with the king. There's no lack with his grace and compassion and mercy. Yes, he came to Israel first, but he came for the world. And that's something that runs throughout the whole Old Testament as well. So there you have it. There's just an incredible passage. And this is a pivot point in Matthew's gospel. There's going to be just one more bit in chapter 16. And then Jesus is going to turn south, head to Jerusalem, and he's on his way to the cross. And so this is a very significant passage going on right here. 15 and 16 is very, very critical in Matthew's gospel of a pivot point in the ministry of Jesus. And so there it is. So rich, so beautiful. Excited to preach it. Please pray for me as I prepare. And I love you, church, and I'll see you soon.